Hello everybody, good evening. Welcome to the first lecture of Gatha Academy's continuous online lecture series. I hope you all are doing great. Today's lecture is about science and scientific temperament. We are honored to have Dr. Saraswati Sati as our first speaker. He has completed MSc and PhD in geology from HNB Garhwal University. He is an associate professor at the Department of Basic Science, College of Forestry, Veer Chandra Singh Garhwal, Uttarakhand University of Horticulture and Forestry. He has teaching and research experience of about 33 years with more than 70 research papers published in various journals of national and international repute with high impact factors. The main field of his research has been various aspects of the Himalayas, past climate, glaciers, river response, natural disasters, and human interventions. He has visited various countries from Europe, Australia, and Africa. He also attended more than 100 academic events. He is known for popular talks on science popularization. He is the member of editorial board of Journal of Geographical Studies. He has been a student leader of state during the separate state movement of Uttarakhand in the decade 90. He has been jailed 3 times and been victim of police brutalities with serious injuries. Now I would like to invite Dr. Saraswati Sati to give his eminent speech on science and scientific temperament. We again welcome all the participants on the behalf of Gatha Cognition. Thank you.
Thank you, my dear child. Well, your good name, I don't know. But that's great, wonderful. It was more than what I am actually. And because I'm first of all, I'm thankful to Professor Bhagat, and I'm thankful to. I'm audible. I'm audible. I'm audible. Hello.
Yes, sir. You're audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, somebody was telling me during this last during last 2 years, the sentence after COVID-19 is used most of the time in the world is I'm audible actually. So anyways, it's a joke. And thank you. I don't know your good name.
My name is Gatha.
Gatha, Gatha Foundation means Gatha you are.
Yeah.
That's great, Gatha. And thank you. Without losing much time, I will. You please enable me to share the screen. Actually, that is the point. Actually,
I think you
it is asking to me.
Yes,
and
you can share.
I'm thankful to you, Professor Bhagat, that opening lecture of this lecture series. And I don't know I'm capable of this all or not. I qualify this thing or not, but anyways, I will try my best to share my views on science and scientific temper. Actually, the topic I chose, it is much needed, and it is share screen. Yes, my screen share. Now it is visible.
Yes. Yeah, waiting for 1 minute. Yeah.
That's great, wonderful.
Visible, sir.
This is my topic actually, and that's great, wonderful. And about the scientific temper, I will talk about the ethos nowadays prevailing globally, and I will talk about, before that, I will talk about the human civilization process and growing trend of this scientific temper and science. And I will do everything to make this talk interesting. And for making it interactive, if someone have any query, in between he can interrupt me. So the topic is science and scientific temper. Let us do, what is science actually? There are so many definitions and very technical definitions, and only the science in which can be defined with a definite words and definite sentences. But for a general use, for a general purpose, we can precise, we can summarize the definition of the science as to unfold mysteries of the nature is the science actually. What is prevailing in the, what is there in the nature? What are the processes in the nature? What sort of the things, what things we are visible in the nature? What things which are controlling the nature? What are the things which are projected in the nature, and what has been in the nature? This is the science actually. And joining with this all and associated with this science, there is scientific temper. What does it mean? Scientific temper is nothing but it's a curiosity to know what is going on, what is prevailing, what is going on in the nature, why it is going on, how it is, how. I'm audible? Kale sahab, Dr. Chandrakant Kale, your audio is actually opened. Actually, your audio is not mute.
Okay.
So the logic actually, what is the? We have an inherent character of logic to know the things. What is this? Why it is happening? How it happened? And when it has happened, this is the thing. This is scientific temper. It is nothing but it is a scientific temper. I will elaborate it. What is the importance of scientific temper? Why it is required actually? The scientific temper will lead to develop attitude of questioning and reasoning in every citizen. Such an attitude will boost countries' techno-social development. Scientific temper made human understand there is a reason behind every happening. What is happening in the nature, what is happening there in front of you, what is happening globally, what is happening in ethos, what is happening in universe, there is a reason behind it. This reason can be understood by human. And this is also one of the things. The scientific temper claims that it can be understood, though we are at present we are not in position for any particular happening. We are not at present point of time. We are not in position to understand, but it can be understood. That is the claim of scientific temper. This reason can be understood by human. The efficiency of approach, efficiency of approach and availability of right resources will be decided. Completeness and correctness of the explanation. This is the surest way to obtain the correct explanation for unknown happenings. Only this is the only method by which we can know the unknown, nothing else. Now, if I will talk to you about the process of scientific temper, it is not the property of modern human being. And almost, if you compare the whole evolution process and where we are evolved now, and if you compare with the primitive one, which was not evolved that way, even then we can see the examples, few examples in which those examples claim that they can demonstrate that the scientific temper is not only the property of modern human. For example, this is a gorilla, what I have shown in two pictures. One is gorilla and one is monkey. A gorilla using a stick to, to push it in the hole of ants, and the ant climb on this stick, and then it used to eat them. In the another picture, a monkey found in Africa, it placed one coconut on a stone, and it very hard with another stone on it. These both the examples where these monkeys, these apes are using tools. If you are using a tool, it means you have seen the process that this tool how this use what is the mechanism of this tool, and what will be the result of using this tool. This is scientific temper. And in the same time, just opposite to it, if a modern society claims that girls must not enter in kitchen or any holy place during periods, this is having no scientific base. You don't have any claim, any reason to conclude this, to infer this thing. This is unscientific. This is against scientific temper. Again, at the same time, you have seen in a shop, in a car, on everywhere, in front of a house, you will see that TVs and this I'm sorry, these lemons, they are in this fashion, they are used without any reason. This is very purely unscientific reason. So scientific temper is not a property of modern human being. In fact, if you compare the civilization, the heights of the civilization of the human being, and you see the unscientific things inherent in those societies, modern societies of human being, you will see that primitive societies of human and primitive animals, those animals which are not that developed, they have more scientific temper than you. I think I'm audible still. Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, this is not my claim. This is not first the point. For the first time, I'm talking. This has been a trend, and people of rational, they have been thinking over for time immemorial, and they are fighting hard to develop the scientific among the societies. And the result, our constitution is also one of the finest example of this thought process, that our in our constitution there is very clearly written that our among our fundamental duties, there is we have to promote the scientific temper, humanism, and the spirit of inquiry and reform. What is existing presently, what is existing, we have a fundamental duty to interrogate that what is existing here and what can be better in the future, how it can be reformed. It is in our constitution. It is not obsolete thing. It is not an absolute thing. It is our fundamental duties. Now, actually, this window is coming here, and it is okay. Okay, I can place it here. What is scientific temper and a scientist? Let me tell you very clear that scientific temper is not a property of science. They are scientists. There is a possibility that there is a big scientist lacking completely the scientific temper. And it is quite possible that a person who has not learned science, who has not a physical learning of formal learning of science, but having a very good scientific temper. Now, few things big scientists claim that, and there are very famous quotes that science cannot solve the ultimate mystery of nature, and that is because in the last analysis, we ourselves are a part of the scientific part of the mystery that we are trying to solve. And this is said by Max Planck. And the another thing is that every formula which expresses a law of nature is a hymn of praise to God. Now let me tell you, whatever the in the universe is, whatever visible, what is not visible, what we can sense, what we can observe, whatever is going on, if this is a mystery, and the mystery is, if there is a mystery, it means the mystery is created by God. So in Maria Meschel's terms, and the ultimate hymn, the ultimate praise, if you get a formula to express the law, to express the mystery, what is going on, to express the event, what is going on in the nature, in the universe, it is ultimate prayer of the God, nothing else. It means what does it mean? It means that if there is a God, somehow there is a God. So if somebody claims, and I'm not claiming, if there is any possibility of existence of the God, so God has given you the brain. Why he has given you the brain? And the brain is different from the other creatures, other members of the biosphere. Why? He might have given you the brain to unfold the mysteries what he has created down the 13 billion years when the universe was created. Now I will summarize the universe. It's in a time frame. The origin of the universe, we all know that it was some 13 billion years before today. From today, 13 years back, 13 billion years back, the Earth came into existence some 5 million years back, and the first signatures of, we can say the origin of biosphere, it has been somewhere some 3.2 billion years. And we, the youngest member of the biosphere family, added some 2.5 million years back, only 2.5 million years, to 25 lakhs years back. Okay. Now, sorry, I have to. Now, I will summarize the human civilization right from its origin to up to present point of time. Actually, there is otherwise there is something, and there is a turbulence. I think people they have not. There is somebody. Okay, now it is okay. Hello. Still there is a voice actually, which is
yeah.
So can you ask to someone to
please close somebody. Please close the mute the mic, please. Yeah. Please,
Hello?
sir. Yes, please, sir.
Okay. So, human civilization, Homo species, first appeared on the globe. It was some 2.5 million years back. It is if you talk about the 5 billion years of the age of the earth, and if you talk about the 13 billion years, the age of the universe, 2.5 million is a pretty time actually. It is a very small time. And from 2.5 billion years, million years to 80,000 years, the Homo sapiens was not different from the other animals. It was similar to other animals, other mammals. It was a food dweller. It was a wanderer in the globe, on the globe, to search the food, to search the better pair for breeding, and nothing else. It was a very simple animal, like other animals, other mammals, like monkeys, like gorillas, like chimpanzees, like even pigs, like elephants. In from 2.5 to 80,000, 1.7 million years. This was the span where the human was simply an animal, nothing else. It was very irrelevant, very unnoticed an animal on the globe. It was like a human, like an animal. But what happened in 80 in age of 80,000, somewhere in 80,000, it has invented language. Before that, it was using the tools also. It was as apes, and I have shown you the gorilla and I have shown you the monkeys. They were using the tools. But in 80,000 years from today, one very important event occurred in the life history, in the process of civilization of human. It has invented the language. Now language can created the difference. I will elaborate it in the later slides. Some 80,000. And what was the domestication of animals? Some 25,000 years from today back, humans started to domesticate animals. And the agriculture which came in the life of human, and it was one of the biggest revolution after language. It only occurred some 10,000 years from today. It was some 20,000 years before today. Now, what this language created? I will cite an example. I will give you an example, an imaginary example. Suppose you imagine that there is a small event of a family of human of some 1.3 lakhs years back, 1.3 million years back. There was a alpha male wandering in an animal, a leader of a family wandering in a forest and in search of food. It was walking in search of food. Suddenly he saw a predator, a tiger. It is coming very rapidly, running towards him. Somehow he escaped from that tiger, and somehow he was able to reach in its cave. Now, what was the mean of telling that I saw a predator and it was about to kill me, about to eat me, but somehow I escaped from it. It was some sign, some body language, some body sign. It would have, he might have been able to tell its queens, its females, its children, that there was a big male. There was a big predator, and I escaped from him. Now we can put this example some 30,000, 70,000 years back, when the language was invented, and it was due to language he could express his the happening, what has happened, the incident, what has happened, in a better way. He might have told that there was a big predator. It had a big mustache. It was a very big, and it was about to catch me. But at the meantime, I hit her with a very big stick, and I broken its one teeth or one leg, front leg, and somehow it escaped from me, and it could not catch me, and it was at last, it was scared. I was able to to win over it, and then I came very coolly. Then I came in my cave. It was not the story. It was the story. The only story was that there was a predator, and he was coming very rapidly towards this man, and the man somehow escaped from it, and he came to his cave. But to show its supremacy, to pose its supremacy, to pose its dominance, he told what is not happened. Now I will tell you one thing. It is very easy. Comparatively, it is very easy. Vijay bhai, it is showing the time that it will remain less than 2 minutes.
No,
Vijay
no.
bhai?
Yeah, we will join again.
So,
Sir, we will join again on this link.
Uninterrupted.
Yeah.
I'm okay.
Yes, sir.
So what he has told, it is a creation of his mind. Now what is happening there? If I will say two children they are fighting with each other, and I will tell someone that those two children were fighting, it is a very simple use of brain. But what is not happened? What is not happened? That is conceived by my brain. What it was not real, it was a fiction. That what was not happened with the alpha male, it was a predator, and he told so many things to show the pose that he's a very brave. It was not happened actually. It's a story. To create a fiction is something very important thing. And in the process of civilization, this what has happened is not that important. If you tell one thing which is not happened, that is a more use of brain, and that implies your brain with other dimensions, with other sectors of the brain. So this is the thing which is much more important in the process of civilization. So what I was telling, that in the human civilization, this was the untruth, this was a lie, which is not happened. It is a fiction. It has a much more bigger role than what has happened. So in the civilization of process, untruth, lie, jhoot, it has bigger role than what is happened, because in telling a story which is not happened, this is something, it is a creation of your mind, what later on we call it cognitive revolution. Now so it has happened in that way. And then after agriculture revolution, what has happened, that I will not elaborate it. It can take much more time. That's why that's why I will not take elaborate it. But one thing I will tell you: after agriculture revolution, this permanent settle, because agriculture needs 6 months to be ready. So for that, you need you need a permanent settlement. You need a hut. You need a settlement. So that is why agriculture forced humans to settle permanently somewhere in at some place, or this so actually it was agriculture which created another difference, and which pulled human being from that of other human animal kingdom. That is another revolution which uh, pulled human being far from other animals. Now agriculture, otherwise before agriculture revolution, all the all the members of the herd, all the members of the group of a human being, they were in hunt of in they were hunter gatherers. They were in search of food. They were in search of there was two only possibility, two only things which were they were used: breeding and food, for food. They were a wanderer in the from one forest to another forest. But agriculture, what agriculture created? Before agriculture, they were wanderer, so they could not hold, they could not carry belongings, much belongings with them. And the another thing is that all the time they were in running phase, so the breeding or the population was very limited. But what agriculture created? Three things. One thing, given the space to breed more, agriculture ये कौन है जिनका नाम नहीं आ रहा?
Please close the mic.
Please, Lord Ganga ji, please, acha, this. Okay. So what agriculture brought in the life of the human society? One, permanent settlement. They can hold much more belongings than previous. The third thing is that they can breed much more because they have a space. They had a space. They were staying somewhere, so there is no mobility all the way. And the third thing is that it was quite possible, otherwise it was not possible. In hunt of food, in search of food, every member of the herd, every member of the group, he had to play its role. But when agriculture came into existence, it created, it facilitated one thing, that even a small sector, a small section of its herd, a small section of its group can afford not to hunt for food. Few people can work for food in form of agriculture, and few people can afford that they will not work for food. The another thing why it has happened, because after permanent settlements, the size of the group was increasing. And why it was increasing? Because of the population. And to keep protected the group, some people had to sacrifice, some people had to work differently. It besides the hunting of the food, they had to work for the security, the safety of the herd. So the division of the labor started from this point. And here the form of class evolved. a class, a sector, a section of the society, a section of the herd that was not productive for food, but that was facilitating to protect the herd, including alpha male and its belonging, its few people who are very close to him, who are braver than others. They were they were separate class, and they asked that, look, we are protecting you people, you produce food for us, you will give food for us. The another thing what was very interesting, that there was some still we have the mysteries of the nature, but at that time the mysteries was much more than that of the number of the mysteries was much more than that of today. So what were those mysteries? Suppose there is a thundering, and the process of thundering, why it is happening, nobody was able to explain. Suppose there was a thundering, and that created some harm on a certain herd of human, and somebody started asking, because cognitive development was there, cognitive revolution was there. Somebody asked to alpha male that why it is happening, or he asked this question to a person which were in the hierarchy, which were in a higher position to him. Now he had no question, no answer. He used his cognitive brain, and he said that, oh look, there was something, a very mysterious power which came in my dream, and he said that, look, I'm very angry with you people, and you people should do this thing for me, and good food and all these things, and then only I will manage my anger. And he said that you are the only fellow who can manage this all. So this become the primitive priest of the group itself. So in that way, the faith evolved actually. Now, these are things, and another thing, if cognitive thing was there and the group was increasing, the settlement was increasing in size, then there was every possibility that if the man was using its brain for fictions, there was every possibility that conspiracies among the groups, they were being involved. Vijay, I ask him to mute. Okay. So there was every possibility of conspiracies. How conspiracies to become the superior were in the herd. Conspiracy to attract, to impress the beautiful woman in the herd. Conspiracies to protect its own children, his own children, to give them better food. Conspiracies to protect them from predators, from rest of the community. So conspiracy was involved in the herd. And one thing that the scientists had found, that if the size of the herd, the number of the members in a herd, if it crosses 250 members, it causes a problem in communication. If there is an alpha male, a male which is controlling the herd, up to 250 numbers maximum, it can control effectively, it can communicate effectively, but after that he has to do something which was not previously known. And what can be that? Now he applied the brain, and he applied this. I have already told you that he applied the brain, and it is beautifully demonstrated in the books what Yuval Noah Harari, a writer, he is a professor of history in Hebrew University, Israel, Jerusalem. He has written 3 books. The first one is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. The another one is Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow. And the third book is 21 Lessons for 21st Century. In these books, and most of the talk is based on these 3 books. What he said, he told that these are the things which provoked, which facilitated more fictions. How to control a herd which is now bigger than 250 members, and which is much more bigger than that. It may be thousands, it may be more than 1,000, it may be lakh, it may be 10 millions, and it may size. How they are creating, they can be controlled. Now, human and that section of human which was not producing agriculture products, it was free from that practice, and the people who are involved in the practices, agriculture practices, they were producing foods for them also. They started thinking how to control this bigger herd, and then that was the thing which created so many things. That storytelling, which was a thing which was the primitive example of cognitive revolution. Now that brain, that cognitive behavior created governments, companies, nations, currencies, faith, religion, deities, dwells, God, and devil. And I will briefly tell about this. Now, what is government? Can you touch the government? Is there any physical personality, physical presence of the government? Can somebody say that I have seen a government, it was very beautiful government? Can you say that? Suppose there is a country and one mishappening occurred, that all the ministers of a government, they are killed. But can you say that government is killed? Government is not killed. Then what is government? Suppose there is a company. All the board members of the companies, they are killed in a mishappening. Can you say that company is killed? Company is no more. Now, same thing is that there is a nation. Can you say this is Mr. Nation? Can you touch the nation? For example, I will give you an example. India and Pakistan, these two are separate entities, separate nations, and they are enemies. Now tell me, if I'm saying that there are 2 enemy nations, India and Pakistan, then who is the enemies? The citizens? No. If they meet with each other in a separate continent, they will hug each other. They have a relation with each other. They are not enemies. One citizen of one country with another country, they are not enemies. Then who is the enemies? The army people? Those poor people, they don't know to whom they are fighting, with whom they are fighting, to whom they are killing. They don't know his name, his father's name, his place. They don't know that. Even then, they are fighting with each other. They are not enemies. And if there is a peace time, they will meet with each other with like anything. Then who is the enemy? Is the land? The lifeless land, a land which is not bio, which is abiotic phenomenon, which is a physical entity, purely physics. They can be the portion of the part of one land with another. They can be enemy. Then who is the enemy? Government. At any time, Pakistan's government can come here to watch the cricket, and at any time our government can go there. A member of our government can go there to eat the biryani. They are not enemies. Then who is the enemy? This is scientific temper. That's why I'm quoting these example. Who is the enemy? Actually, enemy is nothing but a concept. The concept of a nation. A concept of a nation with another. This is the concept which is enemy. Now you will see the whole ethos. You don't know who is the country. You cannot touch the country. You cannot touch the government. You cannot touch the currency is again a fiction. Merely a paper, a piece of paper is running the whole globe, the whole human ethos in the globe. That is also a fiction. The nation, and likewise the faith. You don't know, you have never seen on which you are having the faith. You have not seen who is the center point of the religion. You have not seen the deities who are controlling, regulating your social life. You are not seen the doers. According to them, according to doers, that they are helping at every step of your life. You have not seen the God. God is a concept, and the devil is also a concept. So these are the concept, and they are the product of, they are the result of your cognitive feature, which is in your mind, and which is the feature which is different from the animals. Now I will tell you precisely what you are seeing around you, and what is the development of, what are the results of the science. They are also the product of, cognitive feature of you, and what you are believing, what you are seeing, what is not in existence, what you are believing. That is also a product of your cognitive features. All the fictions which are your reality. And human beings, most of the human beings are actually, they are very much used to of fiction, that they enjoy the fiction, telling the fiction, seeing the fiction, telling the stories of fiction, making the stories of fiction. That is why most of the fiction stories, most of the movies based on fictions, they are super hit. Most of the novel based on fictions, they are super hit. Most of the things surrounding you, they are, and regulating you and your society, they are based on fictions. Now, one thing is, let us take one example. A man and a gorilla, when dropped in a no man's island, what will happen? I will tell you what another feature is developed by your fiction in your society, in your body, in your brain. Now, everybody claims that human is super animal and supreme animal, and human has a developed brain, and the survival of the human is much more than any other animals. It is a supreme one. If it is true, then let us drop. Let us assume that there is a gorilla and human, one human, and they are dropped in a no man's island where there is no man. There are simply big trees, and only two mammals are there. One is human and another is gorilla. Now tell me, what is the possibility of the survival of the gorilla and human? Who will survive? Who is having the more possibility of surviving? Either it is gorilla or human. Can anybody tell the answer? Garthi? No. Can anybody tell that? Hello? Are you getting me?
Yes, sir, we are getting.
So can anybody tell that who is having more chances of survival than another one? Is it human or
Somebody
gorilla?
tell us that is gorilla. Yeah.
And okay, why gorilla? Why gorilla? Because it can climb to any high tree, and it can gather fruits for it, and it can eat, and it can survive. But human will lose his life. Now, if human being has a big brain and a smart brain and much more smarter brain than other, then how it is that only human, where the human's brain has gone? Why it is gorilla who is having the more survival possibility than human? Why it is so? Now I will tell you 10 gorillas are placed there and 10 human beings. Then who is having the possibility much more than another one? Here the possibility is 50-50. 10 human beings can do something together, and 10 gorillas also they can, because there are plenty of fruits they can do. But if it comes 100, if you place some 100 gorillas over there and 100 human beings, then the result will be reverse. There is every possibility that human will survive and the gorillas will not survive. Why it is so? All the human, if both all are taken from different, very unknown domain, 100 humans, one from Africa, one from South America, from North America, they are not known to each other at all. And same the gorilla took from different continents. Then there is a possibility, there is every possibility that human will survive and gorillas will not survive. So what is the wonder? Wonder is in the numbers. Human has developed its feature to work with combination, with even with the unknown members with combination. Whereas the gorillas of different identity, they will fight with each other, they will kill with each other, and they will be finished. And human will work, they will make strategies, okay, they will divide their labors. You will make the shawls, you will make the these fibers, and we will try to trap the gorillas. We will try to make a device to climb over the tree, and we'll arrange the food. So this is the beauty of human and cognitive thing in the brain, to think over the capacity to think that the human can work wonder in combination. So in combination, that is the biggest beauty of the human, that it works with all flexibility in combination. Now you will say that the combination, hello, you can say that this possibility is also with other animals also. For example, ants, they have the division of labor. Some are labor, some are they are tubes, they have different labors, but their labor division is very rigid. But here in human being, if you are working in an army, you are a soldier, you come home and you have a small child, you will and here you will become a father, and then after you will cook for food for her, and you will feed her, and you will become a mother as well, and at the same time she had homework, and you will assist her working in homework. You will be a teacher, so you have a flexibility to do combination of works with combination with each other, different members of your society. That is the beauty. Now I will quickly I will go through the things, though the members are very less, they are only 22, but still I will finish this. Flexibility with combinations and non-domain with the strangers, that I have already told you. Now achievements of science. With this cognitive feature of your brain, of our brain, what the human society is in front of you, that is the result of your cognitive feature. What they now you will see, the science is the product of your cognitive feature, and since time immemorial, the human societies had only two features in societies. One was the wars, and one was the another one, the preparation of wars, nothing else. War for food, war for dominance in the area, wars for dominance on the females, nothing else. But science after science, you have realized, the human society have realized that there is, due to cognitive feature, they developed, they realized that this is not a feature. We should overcome from these features, and they developed the phenomenon in their process, the features in their process, the what we call the concept in the process, which can bring the peace. And what are they? For example, democratization. A democratization is not a natural process. It is a acquired phenomenon. For example, inherent within you, within us, are two features only. Either we can be exploiter or we can be exploited. The third feature, live and let live, that this feature is acquired. It is the acquired feature, which is not a feature built for animals. For example, a labor is working in a factory, exploited by the factory owner, and he comes here. Here is a role of exploited. He is exploited. When he comes at home and he beats his children and his wife, he becomes exploiter. These are only two features which are inherent and built in you. The democratization of yourself, your feature, is an acquired feature. It is a process of civilization. Now this feature created wonders. In many of the countries, several generations are crossed. They are for the several generations, they have not witnessed any war. It is for the first time in history, and it has occurred in the 20th century only, not before that. Before the after the evolvement of the democratization, these are the things. Now, what medical science has caused wonders in the society. Otherwise, these are the things which promoted the human societies to change its natural or animal behavior. Medical science is pushing the human societies towards immortality. Life expectancy and mortality is increasing. You will be surprised to know that for the first time in the last half of the 19th century, that the death by starvation are much more less than that of the death caused by overeating. It has not happened in the human history much before. Again, for the first time in the history, human generations are without wars. I have already told you. Now I will ask one thing, that because I have told you that superstitions, faith, religion, these are all the things they are also caused by they are also the result of your cognitive feature. And between that process, you might have heard about the avatars, the Krishna avatar, the Ram avatar, yada dharmasya glanirvabhut bharata abhyutthana adharmasya tadatmanam srajamyaham. But tell me one thing, devil deeds are no more after Rama or Krishna? The deeds, the negativity in the societies are finished by Rama or Krishna? No, they are not finished. They have finished Ravana and Kamsa, but they have not finished. And we call them God. We rightly call them God. They fought for evil deeds. They fought for negative things. Now let me tell you, smallpox was a big problem in the human society, and there was a possibility that humanity might have been an extinct species if Edward Jenner had not invented the vaccine. Same with the case of cholera. Waldemar Mordecai Hofkin, he invented the vaccine. Plague, and by again Waldemar Hofkin, and Spanish fever, again Timothy Leary, they invented the vaccines. Now that smallpox was a evil, cholera was a evil, plague was evil, they are no more. Spanish fever are no more. And who killed them? Who abolished them? Who finished them? Those scientists. So are they not our avatar? Are they or not our God of modern time? But neither the scientists claim, nor they might have a will to be a God. So let us think about this also, that scientists have done these wonders, they have caused these wonders, and we should recognize the science. Now, for example, what is the difference between this COVID pandemic and other pandemics which were witnessed by the humanity before? The one thing is that rapid spread of the COVID, and the second thing is quick diagnosis. Before that, suppose, for example, Spanish fever. For tens of years, scientists could not diagnose what is the cause of this. Now, within 1 or 2 months, the scientists were able to diagnose what is the cause behind it. And for the first time in the history of epidemics in the history, that the crowd was not went towards the church or temples or mosques or gurdwaras. They have seen, they have expected, they had a faith. Instead of temples, they had a faith on the laboratories. This is a big paradigm shift. So the societies are evolving even then. Though there is most of the societies still, they have plenty of anti-science, non-scientific temper are still existing there. But this is a big thing. Expectation from lab is instead of temple. Vaccine was available in record less than 1 year. Okay. artificial, now one way is still the unscientific temper, the scientific, against the scientific temper, everything is it is prevailing, and it has been seen that the trend is increasing and against science in the societies. And it's a very interesting thing that most of the societies are using science and the achievements of science to propagate anti-science. You might have seen the WhatsApp University. You might have seen the TV. When the two different channels of TV are evolved, you have not seen much channels of science. Instead of, you have seen much channels of Babas, Gurus, Veds, and so many things. If there is an anti-science feature in the society, so to incubate it, you will see that most of the things, most of the achievements of the science will be used to propagate the darkness, to anti-science. And it is very interesting that still globally, not only in India, most of the things of the science are being used as a tool to propagate anti-science. Despite this all, now I was telling that now the science has given, the science and scientific temper has created some big challenges in front of you. The artificial intelligence is going to be a big way, some very big things which neither the countries are sensing, nor the societies are ready to accept. And among them it is an ultimate threat to become the data set of all the majority of the population of the world. It is every possibility that, and it is about to reach on the verge to fuse the genetic, to fuse the biometrics with the algorithm. Algorithm means this computer science and your brain. If they are connected, then everything what you are doing and what you will do will be controlled by a group of small people sitting in a laboratory with a center, with a what we call the controlling system of the globe. And it is already happening actually. If you will see, you have talked to someone with your mobile, and at the very next moment, if you open the Facebook, you will find people you may know. Would you like to contact to Fala, SP Sati, to whom you have already talked? You called Zomato to send a egg curry, or to send to you booked for fish curry or chicken curry, and next day you are driving on the highway. Your mobile will show you that there are n number of it cooks very good curry, and it will provide better and cheap and all these things. They are going to drive you in a big way. So the gadgets, the artificial intelligence already has started to govern you, to control you. You think that it is facilitating me, but in fact that is controlling you. There is every possibility that one way you are talking that my God, my religion is superior than supremacy, jingoism is there, my supremacy, my God is bigger. Science was the result of, science was evolved in 10,000 years from today, and it was because of our dharma. And at the same time, there is every threat that your children will lose the jobs in next 10 years. For example, if artificial intelligence is on the way, what is in a progress, that almost all the drivers will lose. So car drivers will lose their jobs in next 10 years, because you will find that automated cars without drivers, and there is no need of any driver. So tens of the crores of the drivers will lose their jobs in the next 10 years. And the another thing, threat, which is what I have told you, that data colony, there is everything is a data colony. And then if data colony, if you become data colony, somebody sitting in America controlling you, your whole majority of the population, you are having the smartphone and he is controlling, and you think that you are doing your best. And you think that everything what you are doing, that is because of your brain, but no, that is being controlled by someone sitting in America. Then there is no need of weapon, that there is no need of war. Without war, a few people, few hundreds of the people sitting in somewhere in the Silicon Valley, they are controlling the whole globe, some 8 or 10 billion people. Despite use of science, societies are still far away from scientific temper. This is the biggest irony. Majority of the societies should think of the should come on the streamline of this to think on the scientific temper, but this is not happening. Majority of the societies still they are using the science, but they are poor in scientific temper. They are against almost all the faiths, all the things are there. They are against scientific temper. All the institutions promote unscientific ethos. I will tell you one example. You are born, before your birth, your God is fixed. And they said, why God is there? Your methodology says that the God will get rid your soul from this whole earth. They say that you will get the eternal peace from the God. And at the 11th day, your name is decided that I am SP Sati, Saraswati Prakash, the name by which I am known for the rest of my life. And both the major things of my life, most important things of my life are not decided by me. And most of these rituals, these things, they are against scientific temper. They are prevent you to ask why it is so. Your family, your relations, your society, your school, your books, the whole things are against your scientific temper. And the scientific temper, if there is a God, he has given you the brain to ask the question, to develop the scientific temper. So in fact, all the societies or all the institutions surrounding you, those influence you, they are anti-science actually. Increased trend of against scientific temper, I have already told you, these are the things. And Israel is also working the scientific institutions also. Our director of the ISRO, before launching any satellite, he goes to Tirumala. This is the way. A scientist of astrophysics, he keep his child to Hanumanji Mandir because he has an examination, and he says that, ask Hanumanji that, okay, I can do my paper best because I have to take highest marks, I have to earn highest marks. And he leaves his child his office, and then he goes to astrophysics laboratories. The astrophysics laboratory, ultra science he is doing with a faith of ultra unscience, non-science, anti-science. These are the ironies. These are the things which we should think of, and these are things which push you. I have told you several institutions which push you, which push you in a very unscientific ethos, but there is not a single institution which will pull you from that. That is your own journey, my dear. All whatever the patient participants you are, what is the number, but this is our own journey. We should evolve from this all actually. And these are few other things which are I have already do. Thank you, Dr. Vijay Bhai. I know the time is much more taken by me than you expect. Sorry. When I come, this is the topic which is very close to me actually. Sorry very much. Sorry for that.
No,
But
no.
what participants they might have enjoyed that I expected.
Yes, participant. Sir, this topic goes to the science and its philosophy. And I would think that when we think about science and its philosophy, then number of participants should be less. Because we people are now always going through the applications of science, as you discussed here. We are not interested to go inside that. So because of that, it's happening. But at this first lecture of this continuous lecture series organized by this institute, it was very nice and very fruitful.
Is there any question? Is there any question?
Yeah, this is open for the discussion. Yeah. This video will be uploaded to the video YouTube channel. Then there will be discussion. I request Dr. Sainath Ahir to offer a vote of thanks. Dr. Sainath Ahir.
Thank you, sir, for your really interesting speech where we really keep very close attentions regarding the all aspect of your lecture, especially from starting to the human civilization to the recent COVID situation, which facing the entire globe. Dr. Suraswati Sati sir, thank you for your making time to sit through these interesting presentations. Really, we enjoyed a lot of things regarding that lectures. So really it was give something a different perspectives to the new generations, new researchers, and a different way to think beyond the education, science. And lastly, I personally impressed with the slide when you shown the ISRO is really using something religious aspect before launching the satellite. So it was really nice. So thank you for your wonderful presentations. I also thank you to all participants. In fact, there was a disconnectivity, but still all the participants still continue with this sessions. So thank you to all the participants from the different part of countries, especially teachers, researchers, and all the English students. And last but not least, I really thank you to the Gatha Academy who have made available such a nice platform. I can say that this is the opening lectures. So thank you for the Gatha Academy also. Thank you.
Gatha,
Thank you,
big
sir.
applause to you.